Welcome into 11 Personnel presented by Monticello Bank. I'm Nick Roush. He's Adam Luckett, where today we are going to recap the last 5 weeks of Kentucky spring practice that culminated with the 15th practice, a blue-white scrimmage at Kroger Field. One that was a little dampered by the weather, but we're not going to let it bog down our spirits. They don't have spirits to serve at Monticello Bank, but they got a warm cup of coffee for you and some great rates to shop. Now that it is home buying season, got a cute little one right down the street from me that just went up for sale. I'm not in the market, but if you're in the market, check out the rates at Monticello Bank. Monticello Bank, NBCBank.com is the website. They also got 21 locations in 15 counties across Kentucky. They've been serving the Commonwealth since 1895. They're ready to take care of you for whatever your financial needs may be. At Monticello Bank, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Mr. Luckett, how we doing today? It's is spring over? Is it officially summer? What?
For college, I feel like if you're in college, this is right around the time where it starts to feel like summer break.
Yeah.
About a month after spring break,
Mm-hmm.
Derby was always to me. Even like before college, that was always the get to Derby, then it's summer.
Yeah.
And so we're at a week away now, 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
NFL draft isn't it also for that for me? Like get to the draft, then after the draft starts the really 3-month push to college football season. And so we're almost in, if we had phases, we're about to exit a phase and enter the last phase until the season starts. So it's closer than you think right now. So it'll be here before you know it. Spring ball went by like that.
Oh, yeah.
Look up, and it's about to be May.
It's crazy. It's crazy how quickly time flies when you're having fun. We're going to have some fun discussing everything that happened in spring, kind of the lessons we learned in conjunction with our spring recap. First off, though, shout out to Peak. He really prettied up our graphics. Look at those lower thirds, right? Isn't that fancy? We look modern, 21st century.
Wow, he's our Pat Biondo. Stephen Peake's our Pat Biondo. He's coming in here, modernizing how we approach everything and doing all this work behind the scenes. Stephen Peake, 11 Personnel General Manager.
We can't mention general managers right now, Luckett.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, get everybody fired up. We don't need to get in GM talk after old Donnie Freeman yesterday. We are going to get into Kentucky football talk where, Luckett, I will – because this has happened plenty of times in the past where, maybe there's like an open practice or something and you can't be there. Or in this case, it was a spring game. I couldn't be there. We kind of put everybody's guards up on Thursday, just warning that, it might be a little bit less than what you hope for, because of the impending inclement weather that shortened it to only about an hour, but B, just the amount of people that weren't playing. We got a list of 15 guys who were out, but then you see the guys in the black jerseys and non-contact jerseys, and Shane Carr is, he's not a full go. Like there were plenty of contributors who you want to see that weren't a full go. DJ Miller, did he even have the black jersey? He wasn't even out there, was he?
He went through warm-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stein pretty much just said, you're done for today. He's dealing with a little hamstring, so he didn't play at all. Like, he wasn't on the field at all for team when the scrimmage actually started.
Yeah, so like my biggest questions about X, Y, and Z just couldn't even come close to getting answered, even without watching the spring game, because it was very minimal. And we know what spring games are. Like it's a put on a fun show for the fans, right? Like that's what it is. Let's go out there. Let's do a little double reverse. But I will say that, look, it sounds like they really were just like, we are going to be guarded. Stein was like referencing Connor Stallions. All right. I understand that anybody can be in the stands and see their signals if they wanted to, right? couldn't you say that about any one of those Trinity coaches that came to practice throughout all of their spring practices? Like, who's to say that there isn't a Trinity spy that's working both the Louisville and Kentucky football programs? Because there's a lot of high school coaches going in and out of that facility throughout the spring. Who's to say that none of those high school coaches are spying for the other team? Like, I don't know.
I enjoy you getting in the middle of the old rivalry for me. So I don't have. So you can do the Trinity bashing this episode. I can sit this one out.
It's just like
I get what you're saying.
Like coaches are going to coach, but like I still am just like some of that paranoia. I'm like, oh come on, really?
Yeah,
like
I think like this is a conversation I think to be had, and it's not necessarily to me, Nick. Like it's not really a UK thing. Kentucky is one of hundreds that are not doing spring game on TV anymore.
Mm-hmm.
After that it was a big push for forever to do it. No one saw a problem with it, and then magically everyone decided I'm not doing it anymore. So what is it? I don't know. I'm of the opinion like I don't think we'll have a spring game in I don't know the window, but I think they're dying. Like I think it's going to go to something else. I think they're going to end up passing this OTA structure in May, and that's unofficially going to kind of eliminate how you do spring practice. And I just don't know how much longer they're going to do these. Mm-hmm. And I think what your point brings up, like I get what he's saying, but it's also just a big picture on access. Like how much access should you give, right? I think that's what the football organizations are trying to figure out what's their best way to go about it. And also, like if you had a commissioner and you just set ground rules for everyone, it would be easier. Like the NFL, like media is allowed into your first 3 weeks of fall camp. They get to go. They can stay on the sideline, and then after, and even fans can go to those practices. Right, you see the videos of like the Steelers, like the line to get in the Steelers wherever they have it, like in.
Oh yeah, everybody wants to see the biggest show in the NFL, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then like the Packers players ride in on bikes, and everyone in Green Bay has a parade, and all of that. But college, we don't have that, and so like figuring out the access, because spring game is just like what you've done, what everyone has done, but they are different now, and even before, they were just they're kind of just they're. Don't want to say this, but a lot of it's just you don't get much out of it. Like you could say, I don't know, nothing burger. Like we were going through spring game MVPs up in the press box. I think I was talking to Jeff Drummond, and it's just like Bryce Oliver, Jeremiah Anglin,
Jamin Davis.
I'm forgetting another one that was kind of random. David Washington Jr. last year was kind of the guy who had probably the best spring game, and so like. Yeah, I get it, but I also wonder just like the access, because this was the only time all spring
people got
really every program that you get to see them for the most part. And so like, how do you go about that? All that, but I think it was a good crowd. Fans seemed to have a good time. You got to see the team a little bit. You got to see a little bit of the Mamba drill everyone talks about, even though it was very abbreviated. I thought kind of towards the end. And there was some changes, I thought, to the pregame, or not the pregame, the in-game presentation. Now, I couldn't hear it in the box. The audio wasn't coming through our window up there, but they had DJs there on the sideline that they showed playing music. They had an in-game kind of host.
Yeah, what I would call just an MC, which you see it pretty much every professional sporting event, which, by the way, I saw a video from the Cleveland Cavaliers where they have a Don't Blink contest, and they put a leaf blower up to a guy's face. You want to talk about some in-game entertainment? Like I like seeing stuff like that, and I even liked Stein saying in the post-game presser, he was like, I know I'm springing this on all of you over here, slacks, but he even thought like, why can't we get ready in the main football facility to give like another opportunity for the fans to see the players walk through the line, just kind of before the game, which that I think generally big picture sort of speaking, you can just like that's Mark Stoops didn't think about any of that stuff, right? Like he just all ball, nothing else. It's why he complained about all the fundraising. Like, it's why he would always say that stuff's about my pay grade. Like, in his mind, any of the little things were just kind of they were just too trivial for him. Whereas like Stein, I mean, it's every little thing. It's on his mind. Like, it's something to consider. I mean, it goes down to just like the passes that they're giving the kids with all the different UK logos on them, the different logos he's wearing, all of the little things. He's getting his shot at it. And it reminds me, and this kind of gets back to another big picture sort of takeaway I've gotten from our first quarter of the Stein era, if you will, the first quarter of the first season. It's just that he very much handles this how you or I would handle this job if we were psychotic football coaches, right? Like if that was our job, and yeah, I would, that's probably something I would think about. The way he talks, the way he communicates, and I know he bashed quarter zips a little bit when discussing it, but the way he communicates in a public setting, when he's telling Matt, if you're scared, go to freaking church, man, that just way, it really connects with people in a way that Mark Stoops lost later in his tenure. And I think it's going to not only buy him some goodwill, give him a little extra bit of rope, but it's going to help him in the recruiting trail a lot too, because that's the sort of stuff that, like, you just can't fake, right? Like, we know the money and all that stuff matters, but when you're sort of real with these kids in the way that he's real, it just helps so much with the fan base, with the recruits, the donors, all the above, that can really amplify the momentum and the excitement, and to the point where even if you and I are going to sit here and kind of moan and groan about like, it wasn't a whole lot to see at the spring game, it still gives people are still incredibly excited about Kentucky football, even though it is very limited on what they've been able to see so far this spring.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, he can do no wrong, Will Stein, right now.
Yeah, seriously.
But he's doing what I think you should do before you coach any games.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm having to remind people a lot of this. These same conversations, if we had 11 personnel, we would have been having them in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot of the blueprint we saw from Stoops early on when he built that big 2014 class. How they went about the recruiting operation was different. They loaded up on commits, had a ton of buzz, and tried to build on something before the season starts.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Kentucky's doing with Stein, just now, this is 13 years later. I think they're doing a really good job just really capitalizing and cashing in on, all right, we've got a lot of positive energy buzz right now. Let's maximize that. And they're doing that. And then you're right. Like, I think his idea, that seems like a sensible and good idea. Like, you can walk through your fans. It's a little bit longer walk, but it's nothing crazy. And I guess they would walk through the concourse to get to the end zone, or would they just come out that?
Well, they would walk through the concourse and then go into that other room before going out the middle tunnel, I guess. I don't know how it would work, but it does remind you of like the suites at these pro stadiums that are
that you see on TV on like Sunday Night Football.
Right.
Yeah, like I think the Cowboys have one.
That's the one that first comes to mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously that is cool. Like a different idea. That would be cool. Like, you would want to be like, I'm going to go to the concourse because the team's going to walk through. That would be fun. I mean, it's something different, and it would definitely be cool because that's that's like where people hang out, congregate after the game, right?
Yeah.
It's where those players walk off. So
waiting to see those guys get gloves if you're a little kid,
Yeah, so like I like that idea, but he can do no wrong right now in a lot of ways, and I think they're doing a good job capitalizing on that, and I think they've modernized in a lot of ways, and I think they've done a good job just how they've totally attacked the roster building parts of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've done a really good job. I think they're marketing the program, but I think it's much improved.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if like everything's been closed at this point other than spring game, but they're doing a good job. I think just putting content out, videos out, just getting out there. Stein's out there talking about Kentucky. You're getting to know some of the faces
Mm-hmm.
behind the program. So doing a better job, I think, marketing Kentucky football. And so right now, the approval rating is very, very high. It's might be as high as it'll ever be, right? You don't know, obviously, but the approval rating is very high, and people are excited about what this can be. And I've already had a lot of people, and I'm sure you have too, Nick, that are just like chomping at the bit for that Alabama game. Like, people are really excited about that game.
Yeah.
And we're ways away from that, but that's what people are talking about right now. And I think how they've handled this from December to now is the reason for that. And that's part of the job. That's part of the frustration and, criticism I think Stoops got at the end. And I think we brought up a lot. It's just basically like, you are just a coach, but like, you're paid a lot to be the face, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to talk and promote the program and get fans excited. Like, part of the job is getting people in the stands to watch you play. And we've seen, I think, Stein really embrace the marketing side and the promotion side of that to this point.
Well, we've got to just press pause briefly on this conversation about the spring game because, oh my gosh, we have some shocking breaking news, and that is the governor of Kentucky has weighed in on what's happening at the University of Kentucky. And I'll have Stephen Peak just pull this up real quick. He released a statement saying that I'm losing confidence and growing increasingly concerned with the management and decision-making at the University of Kentucky. All right, there's more of that statement, but just full stop, the governor coming out and saying, I am losing confidence about how your university is being managed, that is quite a statement. My concerns due to the creation of a new $1 million job that has no defined duties and the announcement of a new dean of law that was the only candidate not recommended by the law school faculty. That is a separate sort of piece of drama. I'm
not familiar with that, to be perfectly honest.
And that's one of those, I've seen a couple headlines like it, but I'm kind of like you. I'm like,
I need to catch up on my UK law beat. I need to get the newsletter, see what's going on. But that I'm not aware. But obviously, this $1 million job is a direct. I mean, I'm reading this as a direct shot at Mitch Barnhart.
Yeah. And the kind of context of all of this, too, is that Levi Capoluto's not talking. He hasn't said anything except
before we go further, though, I think we need to read this for the audio listeners.
They might not. The whole entire thing. All right. It is mostly about the dean of law, but I'll just stop and read it in full. I'm losing confidence and growing increasingly concerned with the management decision-making at the University of Kentucky. My concerns include the creation of a new $1 million job that has no defined duties and the announcement that the new dean of law was the only candidate not recommended by the law school faculty. Been told that despite previously saying the dean must be approved by the Board of Trustees, the university have shifted and now states that approval is not needed. I worry that these actions are related to certain donors pushing partisan and undue outside influence onto the university. I hope students, faculties, trustees, and the community attend this week's board meeting and ask tough questions that should be answered. That is from Governor Andy Beshear. Whew.
Wait, what are you thinking right now?
So
it's a lot to take in right now. You don't want to, I want to learn more about what's going on with the law,
right? Because I know that guy that they wanted to appoint was a federal judge, so maybe that's where the political connections come in. But the overall, I think what's most important in that statement is not just the coming after Mitch Barnhart, it's the approval by the Board of Trustees. And where I think it applies in is with Champions Blue LLC. Who is hiring Mitch Barnhart? His replacement. Who is...
Yeah, we still don't know. Yeah.
Is it Champions Blue? Is it the Board of Trustees? I'm not going to pretend to know, the laws on all this stuff, but Andy Beshear, I know there are people out there who do not like him, but he has among the highest approval ratings of any governor in the country. So for him to come out and say this, that's a lot. That's a lot. It's not quite Matt Bevin just completely replacing the U of L Board of Trustees with his own handpicked guys, but that's a lot. So it's the first time we've seen somebody outside of Brett Setzer who has come out against this Barnhart move, and it's startling, man. I don't think anybody was expecting this on their bingo card today. I had to check to make sure it was real. And there was a part where I'm like, wait, is this real? Oh, it was real.
There's been a lot of frustration with the leadership over there. And it's been a lot of guys that have been around a long time
who are stepping aside. I mean, you could have a major power vacuum within, I guess it'd be 3 years, with the highest employees in the state, Callan Stoops, out, and then the AD of 23 years out, and then Capilouto, he might very well be on his way out too. He's about 5 years longer than most presidents last out of school.
You know, my mind goes to there was just an article that they were calling themselves Scrooge. I guess they weren't.
Right. But
yeah. The takeaway was they're Scrooge McDuck. Right?
Yeah, we got all this money and we're doing things better than anybody else over here. And now the governor is saying, I don't like the direction this is heading.
Yeah, so all of this doesn't pass the smell test. Like, there's obviously something. Just what is there? Like, what are they skirting around? What are they not doing? And it's not how, you don't want the governor involved. Like you saw, maybe for LSU it worked. He got involved and they hired Lane Kiffin and Will Wade back. But I don't know if necessarily you want to get the governor involved. And I wonder in some ways, Nick, like Mitch Barnhart was originally hired to kind of like clean up and make him more of like a athletic department, runs under the universities, run through the universities, not run by outside
influences.
Now it's like it's almost got turned upside down. Now they're back in like it. The Mitch thing, whether it's real or not, it just feels like a handout to him. Like,
yeah,
just feels like a handout. Now, whether it is or not,
especially but it just when he already had a handout built into his contract that we were like, okay.
And then there was and then if you're going to do that, okay, just have your stuff together, ready to how you're going to deliver it, pack it. And then when people, like, they got questioned and just almost felt like they panicked.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mitch got real defensive about it. And it's just like.
Just going to eat hay. Yeah.
You're not like, it's a public university. It's just not some private, you're not working in the private sector.
Oh, man. Never a dull moment.
No, it's been a event. I would say eventful. I think ever since once Stoops had his post Louisville 2024 press conference, right? That was pretty loaded, which was basically like, we got to fix the culture. Ever since that moment, so that's been, we're talking about 18 months, just about.
Mm-hmm.
A couple months short, a month short, maybe. It's been an eventful time on this beat. I'll just say that.
Yeah, we're not to Ole Miss or LSU standards, but a lot going on. A lot going on. And that doesn't even get to like the CSC stuff that's happening. I mean,
yeah,
the rule changes like this. So the College Sports Commission is basically losing its teeth within a year of the House settlement. The court filing saying that your Learfields and your JMIs of the world don't have to put their stuff through the clearinghouse. That's a whole mess. They're kicking around moving the college football season up to just week 0, which
I'm for.
Yeah, just do it. I mean, it gives you a little more time to get all of your playoffs in and everything. But then now Trump and some White House committee are talking about a 2014 playoff. Like, it's just there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. How about we hard reset back to just actual X's and O's of football? Shall we, Luckett? Let's do that, and let me tell you about our friends at Lexington Podiatry, because they've been taking care of us throughout our spring football coverage. We appreciate all the folks over there at their location in Hamburg. It's a great location, state of the art, new. Everything feels nice when you walk in the door. They've got all their CBD products up on the wall, which while doing this mini marathon training stuff, that has been a real. I didn't know whether or not to believe in CBD stuff, but I did one of those baths, like a soak in the Epsom salt. That was just night and day difference. The balm you stick on your back or your hips or whatever's hurting, that stuff's great. And then got the new orthotics from Lexington Podiatry. They're going to take care of you from foot to head to toe to whatever it may be. Whatever your care needs are, they got you covered. Or preventative, improve your quality of life. Lexington Podiatry. They've been taking care of Central Kentucky for a very long time. Visit them online, lexpodiatry.com. Lexington Podiatry. Shout out Lexington Podiatry. Shout out to, it is mini marathon week, like it. I'm not ready, but
I got 3 in today. 3 going. I'm running a 5 or 6 one tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Exactly. Yeah, we're just kind of rolling the dice. We're going to get Peak there for maybe a little pre-race, post-race interviews to check on us.
He might have to meet us just at mile, I don't know, 10. We might be pulling a Creed and Stanley and Oscar from The Office, just step into the local establishment. Yeah, a couple beers.
Oh, man. It's going to be something else. Part of the reason why we might be a little slow on our roll is because we've been locked into spring football, where I think one thing that we heard throughout spring practice that was reinforced in the spring game is that Kenny Minchey loves throwing to his tight ends. I think that was very much stamped on 100% in that spring game. There's no doubt about it that Kentucky is going to use these tight ends, particularly Roy Rodriguez, is going to be a huge part of the offense moving forward.
Yeah, I do want to – you bring up a good point. I think what was interesting about the spring game, perhaps to me, Nick, Kenny Minchey was throwing to guys he's not going to really throw to this year, projecting. Yeah. Nick Anderson, out.
Yep.
Expected to be top wide receiver, at least Luckett's calculations.
Right.
Shane Carr was in a black non-contact jersey. Did play in the spring game, but obviously not where he needs to be. DJ Miller did not receive a snap, even after going through warm-ups, as he's dealing with some type of hamstring injury. CJ Baxter didn't play. Javonte Barnes didn't play. Per my projections, per se, top 2 running backs. So, like, he was out there, and he wasn't really
with his
throwing the guys he's going to throw to. So I think you have to take that in consideration. And for me, Nick, the big takeaway with Minchey was whatever you thought of him before, whether how high you were on the hype meter, none of that should have changed. He did some good things. You know, things were clunky at times, but he made some nice throws. He missed on some throws. But overall, I thought he showed ball placement, accuracy, and mobility. And those are all 3 things, I think, when you go back and watched him at Notre Dame, when he played, those were all things that stood out to you on tape if you went and watched Kenny Minchey. And so I leave the spring game knowing he's their guy, and everything he had on paper before all kind of checked out. Now let's get into the season, and now let's see him when they're running real offense and they get some of their big ticket guys out there at the skill talent positions.
I did like that in Shane Carr's brief appearance, they let him throw a pass. People forget, high school quarterback. So, he's got that in his bag. But the mobility part too, I think another thing like it is just something that we undersell because you've seen mobile quarterbacks in the past here. So it's not necessarily people aren't chomping at the bit to get that, but I think that's going to play a huge role when you get in some of these 3rd and 6, 3rd and medium situations, right? Where, all right, that you can trust this guy to be able to pick up the sticks if nobody's there. If they go man, bring a blitz, he makes a guy that misses, and he just makes it look easy to keep the drive alive. That is a part of his game that we have not talked enough about.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. He's not a statue back there, but he's also not going to be a guy I don't think you design many runs for. Like, if he runs for 50 yards in a game, it's going to be because, like,
he gets a long one, things break down. Yeah.
Right. Blitz comes, he slips out of there, and one side of the field is just wide open. But his legs are real, and he's going to allow him, I think, have some play extension. And so that is something you'll see. I thought, in the RPO game, you see some of the a ball handling and quick release. He was able to get out of there quick. They really hit on that. They hit on some of those RPO slants or glance routes in the scrimmage. So you're going to see, I think, some of that with Minchey as we get into the season.
We also saw the other side of the line of scrimmage kind of get after him a little bit. It didn't help that the first group of offensive linemen was without their best player, Lance Hurd, who we mentioned last week, had a minor procedure, be out 4 weeks, expected to be fine this fall. But noteworthy that Olas Alanin was the first guard to line up with that offensive line group, alongside with Mark Robinson and Malachi Wood as the offensive tackles. Something that at least piqued my interest, but it sounds like that the defensive line had themselves a nice little Saturday at Kroger Field.
Yeah, I thought Ahmad Bro really popped. LSU transferred 3-tech defensive tackle. He had a sack. I thought he had a really nice game. And there were some others I thought up front. Jamarian Harkless flashed a couple times. You have the known commodities in Tavian Gatson, Mike Humphrey Grace, but those two are ones that are new, transfer additions. But I thought they both had a nice game on Saturday.
In Bro's case,
and Antoine Smith was another one I thought had a nice game too.
In Bro's case, he played a lot of snaps over his first 2 years.
Rotational player, first 2 years at LSU.
Including as a true freshman, which you just don't see much. And in Harkless's case, he fits sort of what we've come to get accustomed to with Kentucky defensive tackles. But Bro has a little bit more wiggle, a little bit more explosiveness. And I think that's been really made a point of emphasis with Jay Bateman's group, is creating more havoc with those 3 or 4 down linemen in the trenches.
Yeah, I think him and Gatson at 3-tech have got that pass rushing juice, for lack of a better phrase. They're going to have from that position. The Stoops era, they really never really had that. They had a little bit of Calvin Taylor, and then Gatson provided it last year. But I think Bro's got some potential there too as an interior rusher. So you're going to see that, I think, from both of them.
You mentioned Antoine Smith too. I was told that he is the fastest person on the team. Now, you normally don't want your linebacker to be your fastest person. You want like a receiver too. But I mean, comes from a sprinter's family.
Right.
A great athlete who just needed to put on some weight. And this goes on track, like the development path that you saw for the vision that Brad White and that previous regime had for Antoine Smith. This fits it, right? You redshirt freshman, year 3, you're ready to be a part of the defense and play. And it sounds like he's really taken that step forward during this spring practice.
Yeah, and him as a prospect coming out of Atlanta Westlake, Nick, it was basically like, he's still raw as a player, and he played kind of edge there in high school his last year. Kentucky's moved him to inside linebacker. This is his 3rd year in college football. They made when he talked to the media this spring, and it was made a big deal about him getting up to, I believe, 225.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. Where that's been, I don't think necessarily easy for him getting up to that.
Right.
They're hopeful that can make an impact here. And you're right. Like he'll be if he has a good year at Kentucky, a couple years, he's going to be a combine star. Like if he has a good enough college career to get an invite to the combine, he's going to be, a RAS score king. He had a 10.65 in the 100 meters in high school. He recorded a 10 on the broad jump. His mom and dad were both high-level athletes. His brother was a star at Duke, but he was a traits-first prospect who was raw and needed development, and it's played out to this point. We've always known the upside is there with Antoine Smith because of the raw traits, but it's just putting it together. And for him, I think he enters the season at linebacker 3 right now, behind Grant Godfrey, behind Bo Barnes. But he brings something there. And then him as a blitzer, I think can find a role in this defense, but he can maybe bring them in a 3rd down type package. So he's a guy I think he's going to be in the mix, to say the least, I think, here for this defense. And he had a nice spring game.
In the mix. in the mix. Yeah, a little disappointed we didn't get any official statistics, but did enjoy that Stein was at least willing to take some things out of his bag, like the reverse pass with Carr to Darby, which if you're a Louisiana wide receiver, I need your all touchdown celebrations to be that animated. I expect nothing less. We need that. We need all the dancing. I'm trying to think of what else really popped off the page from the spring game. Just from the outside looking in, what were something for the people at home who missed it? Like, if you had to say one thing, here's the part that, like, oh shucks, you probably are mad that you missed this because this was awesome.
I would just say, like, getting to see just how they practice and how they go about it.
About their business. Yeah.
There's pace to it. Like, you could tell they're practicing with pace here. And there's a general, I think, just excitement. I think you could feel it in the fan base. Walking in, being at the stadium, there were lines. You know, it wasn't the greatest crowd, I would say, but the one, you know, they could only sit on half of it. It was full. And the other half of the Kroger Field not having bleachers really, it threw me off. I was like, what the heck is going on in here? So that, and I just think, you know, being back at the stadium, it gets the juices flowing. It's a nice appetizer for everyone to go back, spend the afternoon there, and then look up and be like, okay, 4 months we'll be here and we'll be tailgating. Like, it's almost here. The off season's almost over. So that was really, it was a confirmation in a lot of ways of just what we were hearing.
Right. And that's, you know, it goes back. Any person that I've talked to that attended practice previously versus practice now, myself included, it is jarring to just see the pace and energy with which they play with. You know, like you said, if you thought you were excited, when you see it, it's just going to amplify that excitement, that intensity. I like to see a lot of former players come back. Max Harrison, Deion Walker. Shocked no Ray Davis. I mean, that's one. I would have said minus 700. I mean, he's always back in Lexington. But you know, he missed the spring game. We got the return of the Daily Dickie too.
That was cool.
That feels like that was right in your.
Yeah, that was like my age. That's the wheelhouse. That is the wheelhouse, right? That was like college age. I remember those, like watching those in the summer when they were doing those when nothing else was going on. That was like internet when
1.0. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, like you had to know where to go to get sports information on the internet. Like, it was pre-Twitter. You know, a lot of ESPN.com. Like, KSR had just really started. That was
that was like
started to get going.
Most websites you just had to seek out individually. You weren't like clicking on links. It was just you went to the website to look.
Right.
The one I remember more so was Patrick Patterson. Was it Patrick Patterson who did the Cribs episode?
I think so. I remember that too.
Or was it Chuck Hayes?
It was Chuck Hayes.
Yeah,
I remember that. It was Chuck Hayes.
I was gonna say, it had to be older than Patrick Patterson. That I remember thinking that was awesome, especially because like it was a longer video on the internet. I was like, I didn't know internet videos could be more than a minute long.
2 minutes, yeah.
Oh man. There's a nice little trip down memory lane. Let's
we were watching Daily Dickie and listening to Pandora. That's how the college experience went in the summer.
Oh man.
The time.
Shout out to my guy TJ Walker, who is the only person who still pays for Pandora Premium. Only person in the world who still plays to not have ads on his Pandora. The one last guy out there. Let's look to the future, though, the future of Kentucky football, because that recruiting wave, it continues to flow with commitments seemingly every 3 or 4 days. And we got one with a visitor at the Kentucky spring game. He posed with the sign that said it's Stein time in the Bluegrass. Tristan Hughes committed to Kentucky, a 4-star defensive back from the Cleveland area. Like, it just two things. One, we mentioned last week was just the recruiting flex and being able to go toe-to-toe with Virginia Tech, who's in a very similar situation to you. They're a regional. They're in the same regional footprint. They've got new coaches who are very active recruiters going in, and in a sort of high-stakes battle and get a win is huge. The other part is just maintaining that Ohio footprint and doing it without exclusively using your offensive pedigree with Will Stein and Joe Sloan to get players. Like, we knew that they were going to get some offensive players, but for Jay Bateman and this defensive staff to have enough chops to be able to land a player of the caliber of Hughes, it's significant recruiting win for the Cats.
Yeah, I think when you start like projecting or writing out on paper, building a blueprint of how does it work in Kentucky football? How do you have success here? Like, obviously the generic, you got to protect our home, like in recruiting is important, but you've got to be able to go into Ohio and get some players. Like, it doesn't have to be end all be all, but you've got to be able to go into these hubs, into Dayton, into Cincinnati, into Cleveland, into Akron, into other places, maybe even Youngstown if you got a connection or two. But you've got to be able to go in there and just get some players. Like, again, it doesn't have to be all of them, but you've got to be able to take advantage of an area that produces players, specifically at some specific positions that matter: offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, safety. Ohio running back. Ohio produces those players, those positions very well. Like, you see it all the time. So you got to be able to take advantage of that because that's really close. And you have a brand up there. And so that they've been able to do that early is a really good development because there was years where they couldn't recruit Ohio. Years, different coaches. They just could not do it. And that was, under Stoops and Merrill, they got that lid off finally. And it's good to see it stayed off as they've changed staffs here in this cycle. They got 2 guys already. There's some more they're in on. So they're valuing that state, which I think you have to do here at Kentucky to have success ultimately, I think, because there's good players there. You're the closest SEC school. Like, you've got some advantages if you go in and kind of recruit those second and third tier prospects after, Ohio State at the top. And so there's opportunities there. And so that's a good sign, I think, recruiting. And I'm glad they're valuing it. I think, Nick, they are casting a wider Midwest net to me. Before it was just Ohio, Michigan. Now they're getting into Indy. Now they're getting to St. Louis, getting into other Chicago, obviously. So they're casting a bigger Midwest net, but I think it's important to keep that Ohio train rolling and to still be active up there. And we're seeing that happen. And it's a big, Hughes is a big win. Virginia Tech, as we talked about, you meeting them a lot on the trail. It's a nice head-to-head win over there. Louisville was involved. That's a good win for them, for Kentucky.
And there should be more to come in the near future. I may or may not have received a message of another commitment coming out this weekend. And then the kid, he decided he wasn't ready to go public yet. So hopefully that comes to light in the very near future. We did get some other news about a player that Franklin is competing head-to-head with Will Stein for. 4-star wide receiver Ivion Lewis. July 1st, he's announcing his decision. And I believe, do we have some RPM picks in for Kentucky on this one? I saw that somebody from 24/7 predicted a.
He has none on 3 as right now.
Okay, but that is one to closely monitor moving forward.
That's and another one they're battling, I believe, Virginia Tech on.
Yeah, so he's from Richmond, the Richmond area, so that's a big time player among the multiple wide receivers they're kind of recruiting. And then did I see who was the other one that Justin Rowland was tweeting about earlier today? Because that's
receiver from California.
Yeah, like the dead period isn't here yet, so they're still able to host players. Here we go. I got it pulled up. KSR plus Ty Johnson, 4-star wide receiver, doing a multi-day unofficial visit, which you don't see that a ton.
Well, it's becoming a thing this cycle. And I want to do some digging and asking around, figure out how that works.
Right. I mean, because they got to cover it themselves, correct? So,
are there rules?
Yeah. I mean, no.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But that is, I mean, they did it with the running back Myson Johnson,
Cook.
yeah, who he spent the weekend at Auburn.
Miguel Wilson had a multi-day visit, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He committed at the beginning of it.
Right.
There's a lot of kids that are coming through for multi-day visits, not just in Kentucky. I've noticed it around a lot of schools. Now, I don't know if it just snuck up on me last year, but it's been more prevalent this year. It's happening quite a bit. So these are almost like mini, the mini buy the NFL says once you play a Thursday night, this is almost like the mini official for recruiting.
Right. A mini OV.
Yeah.
In the new world of recruiting. So we keep pushing forward. Do we know when the dead period is? Is it open through April and then it shuts down until June for the camps? I believe that.
Yeah. I think it goes from like April 20th to 20 something to May 20 something.
I'm trying to give it a quick look up football. Blah, 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 blah. And here we go. It goes. It's still a contact period.
Mm-hmm. I got it now. Yep.
From April 15th through May 23rd.
And then it goes quiet, but they can host players there in June. And then at the end of June, we get a dead period. The next long dead period, Nick, is until June 22nd to July 31st. And I think that runs into August. So you'll have and that's when talking season starts, right? July. Yeah. And then camp starts in August, and then you can't host visitors until the games start.
This is where we start seeing pictures of coaches at weight rooms at 7 a.m. in the morning. It's like I remember talking with Coach McPeak out of Douglas. They wait to do their spring practice until now when coaches can really hit the pavement and get to rocking and rolling. So something to keep in mind moving forward. So we'll have plenty of recruiting to talk about. Obviously, I'm going to get my Derby chatter in the next few weeks. A lot of sports are happening. Baseball is underway. Make sure you're getting in on all of the action this time of year with BetMGM. BetMGM, every wagering option possible. I'm not an NHL guy, but if you want to bet the NHL, you can. NBA playoffs, those are happening right now, and you can get in on all the action at BetMGM. And when you sign up, use that bonus code ON3, and you're going to get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Plus, an offer for 50% off an annual membership to On3. It's the best of both worlds with On3 and BetMGM. So download that BetMGM app. Use the sign-up bonus code ON3. Whatever you make your first bet on, if it doesn't cash, you're getting that money back in bonus bets all the way up to $1,500. So go ahead, give BetMGM a try today during playoff season. That's what I like to call this time of year, Lucky. It's playoff season. There's just every night, there's like 2 or 3 playoff games in the NBA, NHL. First rounds, it takes a little while to really get the NBA cooking. But once they do, it's a lot of fun. You can have a lot more fun and make playoff season legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms, 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. or 877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. You can also call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. That first bet offers for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. One thing we don't have in this state market, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, they do not sanction the draft bets. So you can't get in on that action. But there is going to be plenty of action happening in Pittsburgh, going to Acrisure Stadium. I can't do the Yins accent. I wish I could. I hope that we get a lot of like man on the street sort of interviews. Feels like I don't know what they have planned for McAfee in this draft, but this is. I mean, is McAfee getting his own simulcast for it? Because the
only thing I know is the NFL Network, I believe, still has their version.
Yeah, with DJ, and then they do the
ESPN has Mel Kiper on one, and then the ABC they have the college football people, so like Hurt Street.
They do the game day. That one's the worst by far. I can't stand that one. It's just like I don't need this. Nobody's asking for this. I mean, if I want to watch the draft, I'll watch the draft. I don't know what that is.
I think it's just for college football fans that aren't into like the draft stuff. But
I know.
I agree. I agree. If you're watching the draft, you want probably the traditional experience.
And like the puff piece stories, it's just I don't know. Like
I mean, I guess some people are into it. I get it. I want Mel Kiper for 7 hours over a weekend. I wish McShay was still on there, but give me Kiper and Louis Riddick, and I'm golden.
I would like to see McAfee doing his Pittsburgh thing with all these Pittsburghians up there this year. All the Yinzers out, getting probably having some beverages. I would imagine. I have not seen the weather yet. That you can, if you get nice weather, you can really amplify the intensity of that crowd up there, and because it can get a little chilly still this time of year around the Three Rivers. But I will say, look, this feels like the least buzzy draft in recent memory.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like it's not.
I actually think it could be pretty crazy because I think we could get trade heavy.
And why do you say that? Because there aren't. Is it because the premium positions aren't premium positioning this year? Because it feels like there's one quarterback. You have David Bailey and Arvell Reese, and that's like it for the edges. And then there's only a couple offensive tackles too. So I feel like all of the positions that teams want to use first round capital on just aren't that stacked this year. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people wanting to trade back. I think there's a lot of tackles that are going to go off the board in the first round. So I think you could see teams try to move up to get some of those
before they're all gone.
There's going to be a trade, in my opinion. There's going to be a trade inside the top 5 because a lot of people feel like this, like the draft is like 1 through 5, 1 through 6, and then it's like 7 through 120. Right? Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way about this draft. It's like there's some guys in the top that you feel like can come in and really can be a chance to be special. And then there's guys that are like all got potential to be quality starters, 7 or however you want to categorize it. So I think you could see like Sonny Styles is a big one. Like Cowboys have been linked out a lot or about potentially trading up for him. So I think you could see something. You know, the Giants got 2 picks. You know, if someone got greedy, they might trade down a little bit and get another one. So I think you're going to see some level trades. But overall, it's just not a great draft class. You know, like the Bengals did what they did because it just wasn't a draft class.
Which, you know what? That had to fire you up, right? Dexter Lawrence. I know he's oldish, but you feel like you've got a handful of good, like really good years still left, and you desperately needed impact players on your defensive side of the line of scrimmage.
Do you remember? Obviously, you remember, like when Kenny Minchey popped, just how like off the wall that was. That's what that was. I was putting Baker to bed. I was trying to get him to piss in the pot, just like messing with, like just like pulling teeth, right?
Yeah.
Then I look at my phone and I'm like, what the hell? I was like, that what? When I figured out like it was real, I was like, what? I think I said out like, what the hell? Just running around, just like high-fiving people. People in my house have no idea what I'm excited about. But yeah, that was one you'll remember. Like, holy crap. Yeah, I think because like they had to go for a swing. It's a position they really need. He's made for the division.
Oh,
in a lot of ways. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. I think he's going to be good.
Has anything happened with Trey Hendrickson yet? Is he unrestricted free agent?
He's with the Ravens.
Okay. All right. When all that stuff happened, I was
Ravens signed a big deal. He got the big deal he wanted.
That was their. That's one of those that we have had a lot happen, and I remember that, but I was like, what? Was it real? Similar to your Dexter Lawrence deal. I always like for a player like Dexter Lawrence, interior defensive lineman, I mean, it goes all the way back to like Tony Saragusa and like those big dudes back in the early 2000s in the AFC North. It's hard to gauge those interior, like just what they do, unless you're a freak show like Aaron Donald. But for the most part, you can't really tell until you see the like what does the defense do with them versus without them. And the Giants' defense with him was a completely different animal versus the defense without him. So I also think it's funny that Harbaugh's just sending him back to the division he used to be in. Like, hey, all right, Ravens, thanks for letting me go. Go good luck going against Dexter Lawrence for a few years.
Well, it was Bengals kind of break because he was kind of forcing his way out. He didn't care. He just wanted to not play in New York anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bengals got lucky here. I really do think they got lucky how it kind of played out. And even like the extension they signed him to, it was, more than team friendly for him. So for him, he's probably going to want to have a good year and then maybe try to renegotiate it. But for now, they've got a guy that they haven't had here really last couple of years. And it's, they've been soft in the middle of their defense. So he changes that. And then you look at their D-line. Now you got reasons to feel pretty good about the defensive line.
And you don't have to worry about them taking a stretch to draft a player, which it feels like they've been doing with every defensive player they've drafted over the last 3 years.
Yeah, they can't mess it up this year.
Yeah,
and that's what I say. Like, this guy's going to, the window's now for them. They had to take a swing. This guy, Lawrence, is going to be better than probably whoever they could have drafted. So It just makes sense. Just made a lot of sense for them to do it.
To go back to more of the actual draft, it feels like Friday is going to be a lot of fun. Does that kick off at 6 on Friday night? I feel like it's a little bit earlier than their Thursday night production because they got to get through 2 rounds.
I think Thursday starts at 8, and I think Friday starts at 7.
Okay.
I haven't looked up the exact times, but I believe that's what that is.
But I think the point you made about you've got the kind of bona fide talents at the top, there's a lot of very fun pieces that could slide to day 2, particularly at wide receivers. I love a good second, third round wide receiver because typically what it means is they have an imperfect resume, but if they get it all together, then they can be a solid starter. Maybe not all pro. And, then you have the rare, like, okay, Puka Nacua, this guy just kind of came out of nowhere. But like Chris Brazzell or Chris Bell, the Louisville, Tennessee wide receivers, I'm more familiar with them, obviously, because of just knowing the teams around here. But like Brazzell was great at North Texas, took him a little while to get used to ACC football, finally got away from the volleyball player, and then was just an absolute freak show. And then Chris Bell he dealt with injuries this year, but like that guy feels like a very solid wide receiver 3 for a team. Just like, all right, like I guaranteed just pencil him in for 5 catches for 97 yards. He's just going to be a solid player.
Yeah, like Deshaun Stribling, Ole Miss, and Elijah Surratt, Indiana. Those are like my 2 in that range. Like I think both of them are going to be good in the NFL. So yeah, you can find receivers. You can find them definitely. And Kentucky receiver Kendrick Law is kind of in this like, all right, there's like 5, 6, 7 guys. Zachariah Branch is the big one, right?
Yeah.
And then Law is in the same tier, just kind of like catch and go receivers. These are just like get the screen wide receivers. Just get it to wide back. Just get them the ball and let them go. And he's in that, and like he's got a really good chance, I think, to go off the board in the 4th, 5th round because of that. And he's got, I think, special teams value. He can return kicks, he can cover, and so he's going to find a home, I think, there in those middle rounds.
And we saw it last year with Ray Davis and the Bills. With the new dynamic kickoff rule, that has become much more important because, you can completely flip the script with great return game. Like, right? Is your average starting field position the 19 or is it the 34? You can do that with a quality kickoff return man. This is way off topic, but do you think if college did that, they'd get more returns out of it? Would you be for it?
I would, because I think it brings more strategy into the game.
And I'd love to see college kickers just hack it all over the place. You feel like you would get some guys who try too hard and just kick it out of bounds a ton.
Well, there's strategy with it. Like you can kick, like in the NFL, they'll kick it out of bounds. Like if we don't care to give them the ball at the 35.
Right.
So it's knowing when to do it. I think there's some strategy to it. And I enjoy it. I've enjoyed the new, I can't remember what they call the kickoff.
The dynamic kickoff. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause there's still like returns. But there's also like, I think there's like a little bit of strategy to how you kick it, how you cover it, how you return it. And then like you can flip games in field position. It's changed the game too, because the field position, like Greg Olson talks about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically like all these, like most possessions now, you're starting at the 30 or advanced. So you need like
three
first downs, which typically you would get. If you get 3 first downs, odds are very high you're getting 40 plus yards. You're well within field goal range.
Yeah.
So it's that I think he said this. He believes that that's leading to more fourth down attempts because teams see that, okay, why would I punt it here?
Mm-hmm.
We're getting the ball you're getting the ball at the 30 a lot. So you're almost in an extended scoring range. So it's leading to more kind of fourth down attempts and you don't want to kick a field goal because you're just giving the ball to the team.
Yeah, right.
Like at the 30. So what's the difference? So you go for it. There's more risk with it. And I think that leads to more entertaining product. I know a lot of people get mad about not taking the field goals, but you're definitely seeing it. I think it's added some more strategy to the game and some more kind of, I think, assertiveness and aggressiveness with how teams handle the go for it situations. And like with the kickers, the K-ball stuff last year, they were kicking it from, you get across midfield, everyone was almost willing to kick it until it got cold there at the end of the year.
And to tie it back into the spring game, probably going to see Will Stein going for it more than Mark Stoops did. Just
100%.
Just a guess.
Yeah, you're going to see, like we've talked about it, the swinging gate. You're going to see, Oregon went for 2 like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
To start games, like score at first touchdown. I believe one of the games they lost to Washington, that ended up mattering. I believe they lost about 3, and they ended up the year like they lost to Washington twice, I believe, with Penix.
Yeah.
It was either that or fourth downs, one of the two. Like if they would have just played it conservative, they probably win the game. But they were aggressive. You're going to see that, I think, with Kentucky. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to push the envelope. They're going to be more willing to roll the dice, I think, on fourth downs. And then defensively, you're going to see them, I think, really just take their swings on third down. Try to heat up the quarterback, try to get turnovers, and are not going to be afraid, I think, to give up some big plays. The most fascinating, Nick, I'm fascinated. I don't know what the game's going to look like. I haven't even looked at really Tennessee, done a deep dive on them at all yet. But just stylistically, how Kentucky matches up with them is going to be a lot different. And that's, to me, one of the more fascinating games of the season.
Yeah.
Because I think how Kentucky plays, they're going to be more, you're going to have a better chance. Where with Stoops, how they were playing under Stoops, it was hard to envision them ever beat Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Where now it's a little different. I'm fascinated to see what that looks like when they play them this year, even with it being on the road.
Let's get a question from the chat. Shout out to Friends of Cole, Kentucky.org. It'll be our Friends of Cole question of the day. Friends of Cole, Kentucky.org. Cole's resilient, reliable, affordable. Check them out. Friends of Cole, Kentucky.org. Where's McGowan going to get drafted? Will McGowan and David Gusta get drafted? It feels like they're both on the fringe in that day 3 category. I heard Todd McShay. He predicted that David Gusta would be Mr. Irrelevant.
He's in that 7th round. I'm more worried about Gusta from a draft angle than I am McGowan. I think McGowan, if like it breaks right, he could get in the 5th round.
Okay. McGowan. So let's set the line. Is 3.5 the line for players getting drafted, or 2.5?
Farmer, Law definitely get drafted. I think those, I would be shocked if one of those two doesn't get drafted. Obviously Farmer, but I would be shocked if one of those two get drafted. I would be pleasantly surprised if McGowan and Jagger Burton do not get drafted.
And then Goose is just kind of on the fringe there.
And then Goose is on the fringe.
Okay. So we're going over 3.5.
Yeah, I would go over 3.5.
There we go.
I think it could be I think Farmer is the only day 2 pick. I think he goes off in the 3rd. And then I really think, you could see fifth and 6th, I think could be busy rounds for Kentucky with Law, Jagger Burton, McGowan.
It'd be awesome to see.
And then Braun's also, I would put Braun with Gusta.
Yeah.
It's kind of that borderline 7th undrafted free agent.
For I know I poo-pooed the puff piece stories earlier, but it would be great stories for McGowan and Jagger. Obviously McGowan had plenty of trials and tribulations that were self-inflicted. But to kind of have to do his time, climb out of the gutter the hard way, and just kind of continue to level up to get drafted would be awesome. And then Jagger, I mean, that guy, he took a lot of heat as Kentucky's offensive line struggled, and he had his own snapping issues, and then he bounced back, didn't have any issues at all last year. And the other part I think that got overlooked in all of it is just how much work he put into getting his body right to be able to play whole season too. So would be awesome to see those guys get their name called.
Right. So, journeys to success aren't always linear. I think Jagger Burton's a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a chance to be, a top 200 pick, and that's kind of where he was as a recruit. He was kind of like 119, 120. He's got a chance to be within 50 spots of that. So he, that's what recruiting rankings in a sense are based off of, is where you would go in the draft, where you project you to go in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right
where he belongs.
Yeah. So it just took him a little bit to get there. And one of the takes I have doing this draft stuff is just like looking back at Kentucky's transfer class last year. Honestly, solid job.
Yeah.
I think everyone a lot of fans were tapped out and weren't following it. And then a lot of people were frustrated when they picked that Zach Calzada ended up being their quarterback. But overall, I thought they did a good job finding quality players in the portal. And it just shows you, to me at least, Nick, if they had a worse portal class, they could have been awful last year. Yeah. They raised the floor, I thought, and that's why they went 5-7. I think this, there was things why they had such a low ceiling, but they found some good players, and that's going to show up, on draft weekend. All these guys, none of these guys were great players, but sometimes in the portal, you're not going to find. It's not necessarily easy to find guys who are going to be top 100 picks. A lot of times players are in the portal for a reason. It's not necessarily because they're had an awesome career to this point. Right. And so overall, Kentucky, I look back, their transfer class last year, I thought was solid, looking back. Mm-hmm. And then you add some returnees they had still on the team. When you look at, Sam Green obviously sticks out and some others. So that was kind of one of my takeaways is that, there was a lot of talk, but that portal class ended up being, it wasn't game changing, but it ended up being kind of a solid class for Kentucky.
And then it gets back to the question that you had at the beginning of the year, but how high can this team's ceiling be without surefire all SEC talent, And it's good,
without top 100 picks, right? How good can you be? And that's what we saw play out, right?
Yep. Yeah. Oh, look at all of our full circle moments we had on today's show. Just, what a time. It was a good time. No, we're not Zoom action. I hit the wrong button. There we go. That's a different button.
Yeah, and the chat, there's a lot of questions about Matt Ponatoski. Matt Ponatoski's interesting, Nick, because apparently everyone knows. Everyone knows, or they know somebody who knows, right? My read of the situation is I don't know. Ponatoski's not showing up in MLB draft mocks in the first round. So
this is just going to be something people talk about.
What does he value? What is
he
and his camp value? What do they want at the end of the day? And that's something we'll find out this summer. The draft isn't till July. So we got a while wait till that. But he was quoted, and basically his quotes was basically how I read it was just, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm getting through the season and then we'll figure it out after.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just kind of where we sit, which was the expectation from all along, was that he's going to play baseball and then, assess his draft stock and then make a decision.
As they like to say, that decision, it's going to feed families over there on KSR Plus. And there's a lot of families being fed because there's a lot of scoop happening right now in all corners across the Big Blue Nation. thanks to the portal happenings that are going on right now. But we got plenty of other things to discuss over the next couple of weeks. We're going to go run 13 miles this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it. Going to be a great time. And next week's Derby week. And who doesn't get buzzing whenever it's Derby week around here in the city of Louisville? So we'll have plenty more to come. We appreciate you hanging out with us today. It's been a fun spring season of Kentucky football. We appreciate you joining for this ride, and we'll be back next week with more 11 personnel. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.